At times of celebration, like this weekend, it is easy to get caught up in all the excitement and attempt, which is not a bad thing, but attempt to take a hyper-optimistic view of everything. But words of truth, great ideals, are there to lead us, yet not deceive us. We know from our traditions in unity that working with ideas of truth and allowing them to shape and to develop us as human spiritual beings requires constant striving. Not just what was so beautifully depicted in the musical South Pacific, happy talk. Happy talk, happy talk, happy talk, happy talk, the song goes. That really doesn't accomplish anything for us, our community, our nation, our world. But to give our full attention to the ideals we profess, whether they be in our very intimate unity tradition, whether they be the ideals of this country, which we know are powerful, but we have yet to fully realize them, or anything that takes humanity, and as Timothy expressed in the song, not just humanity, but all creation forward in its wholeness, its beauty, what it truly is, requires continual commitment. I quote these words from Dr. Rudolf Steiner from 1911. He was in Austria, Switzerland, Germany, and they were quite aware that their beloved, highly developed European society was on the brink. And of course, World War I came. So Dr. Steiner did not say these from the sense of that happy talk, but of great human and spiritual depth. And he wrote this: "The only way of reaching out beyond the present is to have ideals. The only way of reaching out beyond the present is to have ideals." Inspired by these words, another person named Adams, who was the General Secretary of the Anthroposophical Society in America, her full name, Mary Stuart Adams, a famous name in our country. She wrote, "Ideals guide us beyond present circumstances and work to awaken slumbering powers in the human being. As with the virtues, realizing an ideal is not about achieving fulfillment, but about the good that becomes from its pursuit. And when we unite with others, seeking the same goal, then much that is good and needed can become." I love that distinction, that the real power is not thinking we will immediately bring the ideal to fruition, but it's by our striving toward that truth, toward that ideal, that good comes forth from us. It reminds me of a statement that Jesus made according to the Gospels that's always sort of bewildering, challenging, or just not possible. He told his listeners, "Be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. Well, that challenge is a little too much for me. Be perfect as God is perfect. Well, looking at his Aramaic language, the word we translated into English in our Bibles as perfect actually means inclusive. Inclusive. So Jesus was saying, at least in my understanding, be inclusive in how you live, just as God is inclusive, that is, everywhere present, always upbuilding. Strive for that continual lifting up in your life, your community, your world. Well, we celebrate this week another statement of ideals, and also, we well know, not yet fully realized. But again, I repeat Mary Stuart Adams' idea that it's not so much in the immediate fulfillment of our American ideals as it is in our quest to bring them into an inclusive power throughout our nation. Our Declaration of Independence was a powerful ideal of freedom in a broad sense for all of humanity. And I ask you to listen carefully to these words that accomplished so much on this continent, but are inspiring us to achieve so much more. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evidences a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Amazing. Amazing, mainly from Thomas Jefferson 250 years ago. Well, I want us to listen to something similar but far older. The creation story, or the in the beginning declaration of the Gospel of John from the 1st century, almost 2,000 years ago. Before time itself was measured, the voice was speaking. The voice was and is God. This celestial word remained ever present with the Creator. His speech shaped the entire cosmos. Immersed in the practice of creating, All things that exist were birthed in him. His breath filled all things with a living, breathing light, a light that thrives in the depths of darkness, blazes through murkiness. It cannot and will not be quenched. Now we can consider a spiritual path of freedom. In our unity teachings, we have the spiritual practice of affirmations and denials. You might be very active in their use, or perhaps you don't utilize these tools on a consistent basis. In contrast to early unity, when these practices had significance, now it is more pleasant to be optimistic and only consider the positive affirmations. Yet we live in troubled times in which a common statement, personally or nationally, is, "This is not who we are. This is not what I want to be." These are denial statements. Statements that I am not that. I reject that idea. Charles Fillmore cited the importance of cleansing before affirming. He took it to be analogous to cleansing a wound before applying medicine and bandage. He said, when you have a wound on your body, you cleanse it first. Then you apply the medicine and the bandage. And so it is, he claimed, with our consciousness, that we use the practice of denial to say, this is not truth to me. I do not want to be a part of this prejudice or this hatred or this cruelty. Cleanse it away. Then affirm the truth that you hold dear. Returning to Dr. Steiner's words, it is the ideals we hold that allow us to imagine the future we want. Whereas our spiritual, social, political practice are the creative ways that we can work in the present, we can work with this formula. Our ideals set our direction, but our choices in the present bring our ideals to life. Freedom requires responsibility. We must act on or give expression to our vision, to our ideals, to our hope, to the future we focus on. Charles, speaking at a time that was near the 4th of July of 1906, Unity was endeavoring to build their first building in Kansas City, and they were fundraising. And some people, even in those days, criticized Charles. You're always asking for money. And he said, we're endeavoring to do a great thing, to build a home for our unity work going forward. Isn't that a great promise? Don't you want to invest in that? And that was his response to his critics. But he also told them that the cornerstone of this first building has a large space in it, and we ask you to write down your ideals on slips of paper, and they'll be placed in that cornerstone. And 19,000 people did. writing their statements of affirmation for unity, growing and going forward from 1906. And Charles said something that I thought, well, he was a salesman, and this sounds rather boastful, but he said, everyone that fills out a little affirmation sheet to be put in the cornerstone will one day consider it an honor equal to signing the Declaration of Independence. Well, that just sounded kind of ridiculous to me, like Jesus' statement, be perfect. But then I started to think about it. And what Charles and Myrtle Fillmore and those that worked with them at the beginning of the 20th century, what they were attempting was a declaration of spiritual freedom. To emphasize that the Spirit of truth is always ready to work with you, but you are doing the work on your own spiritual path. Authorities, religious authorities, may offer you wisdom, may suggest practices. I even do that here in this church. But that's only a suggestion. Charles said, use what you hear at Unity, apply it in your own life, and if it doesn't produce good, then drop it and go do something else. The emphasis was on your freedom and your God-given power to declare your freedom and to go forward in your spiritual and human development. Well, I'm going to contrast this with something factual. Our national politics. We vote as a creative act to shape this nation and to move it forward to ever greater fulfillment of the ideals that we profess back to our beginning 250 years ago. But consider this fact. In the general election of 2024, remember that? It wasn't long ago. 2024, 90 million registered voters did not vote. 90 million citizens did not commit themselves to voting for our moving forward. So I give that as a fact. But it's a fact in our lives, in our city, in our church. We can hold the highest ideals, but what are we willing as a community and as individuals to really carry forth, to really act on? Another example of the work we have to do, Timothy suggested it in his song, but we well know that after the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, then the writing of the Bill of Rights to give a greater fullness to what this Constitution really is meant to support, the well-being and wholeness of its citizens. But we know the history. When I was speaking of early unity, Myrtle Fillmore could not vote. Charles Fillmore, her husband, could vote, but she could not vote. My family has history in the East in the Cherokee tribe. All of their land, all of their possessions were taken by the federal government when they were moved to Oklahoma. They were not citizens in the full sense of the word. None of the indigenous people of this continent were. So these ideals have to be continually refined. Did you notice that beautiful line in our opening hymn, "Oh Beautiful"? Asking that Spirit refine our gold. Refine our gold. What we treasure, what we consider so valuable, we still must ask the Spirit of truth to help us further and further and further refine it. That is, give its truth expression in how we live and how we relate to one another, how we relate to the world. Well, such criticism as I make may seem like a downer, but it isn't. Because we still have our ideals, whether the Declaration of Independence, the ideals of our unity movement, ideals and hopes and goals in so many areas of our life and our world. They're still there, and they're still calling out that we refine them, that we make them ever truer, ever applied to our daily living. I think that is a great invitation. Charles once referred to this concept of enacting truth or ideals. He called in a lesson the stupendous invitation. I love that word, stupendous. This great opportunity that we have tomorrow on Monday, July the 6th. What might you do to show yourself, your partner, your family, your neighbors, strangers on the street, that you see the truth in them? It can be a simple thing. You don't have to be like a minister and meet somebody at Mall of America and hold them down and make them listen to a Sunday lesson. That's not what it's about. But it's the simple things when you encounter a stranger, as Jesus taught. Will you really see them? Appreciate them? Help them if they ask you? So many possibilities before us as a church, as a nation, as a world. So much yet we can accomplish as we are willing. And so I invite us for a moment in the silence to consider this statement, this wisdom from our master teacher Jesus. And as you hear these words and then we hold them in silence, I invite you to consider he is not offering a one and done attitude toward the spiritual path, but rather a consistent, ongoing commitment to an ideal, to a truth. He offered these words in his great Sermon on the Mount, recorded in the Gospel of Matthew. So I ask you, close your eyes if you choose, be still. Allow these words to go to your very depths. And for a moment, in the silence, allow them to open inner doors in your soul of what could be. listen. Ask and keep on asking, and it will be given to you. Seek and keep on seeking, and you will find. Knock and keep on knocking, and the door will be open to you. For everyone who keeps on asking receives, and he who keeps on seeking finds, and to him who keeps on knocking, it will be opened. Let's cherish this in a moment of silence. Dear Spirit of Truth, you help me day by day, hour by hour, to be consistent in my striving toward that which I hold to be true, for that which I value. Open my eyes, my heart, that I may do my part in this church, in this nation, in this world, to allow your great ideal of life to come to ever greater fruition for myself, my community, each stranger that I don't even know by name. Let me behold the ideal of their life. Let us remember the quest of all for life, fulfilling life, liberty, respect, compassion, and that all may pursue the happiness, pursue what is true and valuable in their life and their world. Each one of us is a creative agent, God's tool to forever refine this world. This truth is our freedom, and so it is.